People often confuse strength with becoming cold, distant, or heartless. They think the moment someone starts protecting their peace, setting boundaries, and choosing themselves, they've somehow lost their kindness. But real strength was never about shutting down your heart. Real strength is about knowing who deserves access to it. There's a big difference between being unavailable and being unprotected. One comes from fear. The other comes from self-respect. Self-respect changes the way you move through life. It makes you realize that you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to explain your value to people who benefit from ignoring it. When you respect yourself, you start understanding that your energy is currency. Every conversation, every relationship, every environment you place yourself in is either investing in your growth or draining your spirit. Strength is learning how to recognize the difference and having the discipline to choose what elevates you. A lot of people grow up believing that being strong means tolerating everything. They think loyalty means staying no matter how much something hurts them. They think love means sacrificing their peace just to keep someone else comfortable. But there's nothing powerful about abandoning yourself. That's not loyalty, that's self-neglect. True strength shows up when you can care deeply about people and still walk away when respect disappears. That takes courage, that takes maturity, that takes understanding your worth even when others fail to see it. Strength is calm. It doesn't need to scream. It doesn't need to prove itself in every situation. When you carry self-respect, your presence starts speaking before you even say a word. People recognize when someone knows their value because they don't move out of desperation. They don't chase acceptance. They don't lower their standards to avoid being alone. They move with patience because they understand that anything built on desperation usually collapses under pressure. Being soft in your heart is not the problem. Compassion, empathy, and kindness are powerful qualities. The danger comes when those qualities are given without boundaries. When you give endlessly without protecting yourself, people start mistaking your kindness for permission. Permission to disrespect you. Permission to overlook your needs. Permission to assume you'll always be there, no matter how they treat you. Self-respect teaches you that love should never require you to lose yourself. Life has a way of testing your standards. There will be moments where walking away feels heavy. There will be moments where speaking up feels uncomfortable. There will be moments where choosing yourself makes others question you. But growth lives inside those uncomfortable decisions. Every time you choose self-respect over temporary approval, you strengthen your foundation. You build confidence that isn't based on who stays in your life, but on how firmly you stand in your own identity. Strength also means taking responsibility for your own healing. You can't keep blaming the world for the times you allow people to cross your boundaries if you never built them in the first place. Self-respect requires reflection. It requires honesty. It requires accepting that sometimes you taught people how to treat you by what you tolerated. But the powerful part about that realization is knowing you can change it at any moment. The moment you raise your standards, you change the way people approach you. When you respect yourself, your circle changes, your conversations change, your expectations change. You stop entertaining things that once felt normal but were slowly damaging your confidence. You stop forcing connections that don't grow naturally. You stop explaining your dreams to people, committed to misunderstanding them. Strength teaches you that not every opportunity deserves your time, and not every person deserves your loyalty. The strongest individuals understand that peace is more valuable than attention. They know that walking alone with dignity is better than standing in crowds where they feel invisible. They don't rush their journey because they understand that building yourself takes patience, discipline, and consistency. Self-respect is not built overnight. It's built through every decision where you choose growth over comfort and long-term value over temporary emotions. At the end of the day, strength isn't about building walls so high that nobody can reach you. It's about building doors that only open for those who respect your space. You can still love deeply. You can still care genuinely. You can still support others. But when self-respect leads your decisions, you stop losing yourself in the process. And that's when your strength stops being something you prove to others and becomes something you live for yourself. There comes a point in life where you got to stop negotiating your work just to keep people around. A lot of people don't even realize they're settling because they got used to surviving instead of living. When you spend enough time being underappreciated, it starts feeling normal. You start convincing yourself that bare minimum effort is love, that inconsistency is passion, and that silence is peace. But deep down, you feel that weight in your chest telling you something ain't right. That feeling is your standards trying to wake you up. Accepting less than you deserve doesn't usually happen overnight. It happens slowly. It shows up in small compromises that feel harmless at first. You ignore disrespect because you don't want the conflict. You accept broken promises because you believe people will eventually change. You give endless chances because your heart is loyal, and loyalty is something you take pride in. But loyalty without boundaries turns into self-betrayal. Every time you tolerate something that goes against your value, you teach people how little you expect from them. Your life is shaped by what you accept, not what you hope for, not what you wish people would give you. What you allow is what becomes your reality. When you accept less, you start building a world around low expectations. You surround yourself with half-effort relationships, weak commitments, and empty words. Over time, that starts affecting how you see yourself. You start believing that maybe this is all you deserve. But that's never the truth. That's just what happens when you stay in environments that shrink your confidence. Knowing your worth is easy to say, but hard to practice. It requires you to be honest about what drains you. It requires you to step away from situations that once felt comfortable, but no longer help you grow. Growth demands separation sometimes. Not because you hate people, but because you love your future enough to protect it. Accepting less keeps you stuck in cycles where you give your best while receiving excuses in return. And excuses don't build stable foundations for anything meaningful. People who settle often do it because they fear being alone. They think loneliness is heavier than disappointment. But there's a different kind of loneliness that hits deeper. That's the loneliness you feel when you're surrounded by people who don't truly value you. That kind of isolation slowly chips away at your spirit because you're constantly present but never fully seen. Choosing yourself might feel uncomfortable at first, but it creates space for connections that match your energy instead of draining it. You gotta understand that people rise or fall to the standards you set. When you allow inconsistency, you attract inconsistency. When you tolerate disrespect, you create comfort for people who benefit from your silence. Raising your standards isn't about becoming difficult or demanding. It's about becoming clear. Clear about what you will accept. Clear about what you will walk away from. Clarity creates respect, both from others and from yourself. Accepting what you deserve also requires patience. Quality takes time. Real loyalty takes time. Genuine love, strong partnerships, and meaningful opportunities don't rush themselves into your life. They grow through consistency, effort, and mutual respect. When you start valuing long-term fulfillment over temporary attention, your decisions become sharper. You stop chasing quick validation and start building solid foundations for your future. There will be moments where standing on your standards feels lonely. There will be moments where people accuse you of changing. But growth always looks like change to people who benefited from your old boundaries. You can't evolve while holding on to habits that kept you stuck. Every level of life requires a new version of discipline. Sometimes that discipline shows up as silence. Sometimes it shows up as distance. Sometimes it shows up as saying no when your heart wants to say yes. Your value doesn't increase or decrease based on who recognizes it. Your value is constant. What changes is who has access to it. When you accept less, you give premium energy to situations that only return temporary satisfaction. When you raise your standards, you start investing your time, love, and loyalty into spaces that multiply your growth instead of limiting it. That shift doesn't just change your relationships. It changes your mindset. It changes your confidence. It changes the way you carry yourself in every room you walk into. Life rewards clarity and courage. The moment you decide that your peace, your dreams, and your identity are non-negotiable, everything around you starts adjusting. Some people will step up. Some people will step away. Both outcomes are necessary because anything meant to stay in your life will rise to meet the level of respect you set. And anything that falls away was only surviving off the standards you were afraid to enforce. Accepting what you deserve isn't about arrogance. It's about alignment. It's about understanding that you were never meant to live a life built on half effort, love, half truth, loyalty, or half committed support. You were built for something solid, something honest, something that matches the energy you give. In the moment you stop accepting less, you stop shrinking your future to fit your fears, and start expanding your life to match your true value. A lot of people grow up believing their purpose is to fix everybody around them. They become the listener, the problem solver, the one who carries everyone's emotional weight. They take pride in being the person people run to when life gets heavy. But somewhere along that journey, they forget to check if they're strong enough to carry their own burdens first. Trying to save others while you're still drowning yourself is one of the fastest ways to lose direction in your own life. There's a difference between helping people and sacrificing your foundation. Helping comes from strength. Sacrificing your growth usually comes from guilt, fear, or the need to feel valued. When you don't build yourself first, you start measuring your worth based on how much you can do for others. That becomes dangerous because your identity starts depending on being needed instead of being fulfilled. And the moment people stop needing you, you're left questioning your value. Building yourself means understanding your emotions, your goals, your discipline, and your boundaries. It means making sure your mindset is stable enough to handle pressure without breaking. A strong foundation doesn't just appear overnight. It's built through consistent effort, learning from failure, and developing patience with your own growth. When you invest in yourself, you're not being selfish. You're making sure you have something real and solid to offer the world. Many people rush into saving others because they see pieces of themselves in someone else's struggle. They want to heal others in ways they wish someone healed them. That kind of compassion is powerful, but it can also become a trap if you ignore your own healing process. You can't guide someone through a storm if you've never learned how to survive your own. Strength comes from experience, reflection, and personal discipline. Without those things, you end up giving advice you haven't lived and support that drains you instead of empowering you. Life will always present opportunities to help others, but timing matters. When your mind isn't strong, when your goals aren't clear, and when your emotional balance isn't stable, helping others can pull you further away from your own progress. Every time you delay your growth to rescue someone else, you postpone the life you're meant to build. And the truth is, you can inspire more people by becoming strong than by constantly trying to carry their problems for them. Building yourself requires solitude. Sometimes it requires stepping back from situations where you're used to being the one everyone depends on. That distance isn't rejection, it's preparation. It's you taking time to understand who you are without distractions. It's you learning how to solve your own problems, control your emotions, and strengthen your mindset. The stronger you become, the more powerful your support becomes when you do help others later. Discipline plays a huge role in personal growth. Building yourself means creating habits that strengthen your future. It means staying committed to your goals, even when nobody is watching or encouraging you. It means learning to say no to things that slow down your progress, even if those things involve people you care about. Real discipline isn't about ignoring others. It's about recognizing that your road is necessary if you want to create lasting impact. People often think being strong means carrying everyone else's pain without showing their own. But real strength means knowing when to step back and heal. When you ignore your own struggles, they don't disappear. They build up quietly until they affect your decisions, your relationships, and your confidence. Building yourself requires honesty. It requires acknowledging where you need improvement, where you need healing, and where you need growth. When you focus on building your mind, your confidence, and your purpose, you naturally become a stronger source of support for others. Your advice becomes real because it comes from experience. Your presence becomes powerful because it carries stability. Instead of trying to rescue people from their struggles, you start inspiring them to build their own strength. That kind of impact lasts longer because it teaches independence instead of dependency. You also start recognizing that not everyone wants to be saved. Some people are comfortable in their habits, even if those habits hold them back. Trying to force growth on someone who isn't ready will only drain your energy. Building yourself teaches you patience and awareness. It helps you understand that your responsibility is to grow, and your example will naturally influence the people who are ready to change. Your life is a long journey, and every decision you make either strengthens your foundation or weakens it. When you choose to invest in your growth, you're creating stability not just for yourself, but for everyone connected to your future. A strong person can lift others without collapsing. A focused mind can guide others without losing direction. A healed heart can support others without carrying unnecessary pain. Building yourself before saving others isn't about turning your back on people. It's about preparing yourself to be someone whose help creates real change. It's about understanding that your strength is your greatest contribution. When you take the time to grow, to heal, and to discipline your mind, you don't just improve your own life. You become proof that transformation is possible. And sometimes that example does more for people than anything you could ever say or do for them directly. Power doesn't come from how many people clap for you. It comes from what you refuse to compromise when nobody is clapping. A lot of people spend their lives chasing approval, adjusting their personality or goals, even their values, just to fit into rooms that were never built for their growth. Approval feels good in the moment, but it's temporary. Standards, though, they shape your entire life. They decide who stays around you, what opportunities reach you, and how you see yourself when the world gets quiet. When you live for approval, you give strangers control over your confidence. Your mood rises and falls based on opinions that change with convenience. One day people support you, the next day they doubt you, and suddenly your identity starts shifting to match whatever keeps you accepted. That kind of living drains your spirit because you're constantly performing instead of evolving. Real power starts the moment you stop asking people if you're allowed to grow and start deciding that growth is your responsibility. Standards are personal rules that protect your value. They define what behavior you accept, what energy you entertain, and what level of effort you expect from yourself and others. Standards require discipline because they force you to walk away from situations that feel comfortable but don't align with your purpose. That walk isn't always easy. Sometimes approval comes from places that feel familiar, from people you care about, from environments that once made you feel safe. But if those spaces limit your progress, staying there slowly weakens your future. People who move with strong standards don't move out of arrogance. They move out of clarity. They know who they are, what they're building, and what distractions they can't afford to entertain. That clarity gives them a calm confidence. They don't need to prove themselves in every conversation. They don't need to argue their worth. Their consistency speaks for them. And consistency builds respect in ways approval never can. Approval is emotional. It depends on trends, moods, and opinions. Standards are structural. They build a life that stays solid even when emotions fluctuate. When you build your life around approval, you spend energy trying to please everyone. And in that process, you lose connection with yourself. But when you build your life around standards, you create a filter. That filter allows the right people, opportunities, and experiences to enter your life while keeping distractions outside. There will always be pressure to lower your standards. People might call you difficult, distant, or too focused. They might question why you don't tolerate things that used to feel normal. But growth changes your tolerance. What once felt acceptable starts feeling like a limitation. That's not arrogance. That's awareness. Every new level of life demands stronger discipline, stronger boundaries, and stronger self-belief. Without those things, progress becomes temporary. Power also comes from holding yourself to high standards, not just expecting them from others. It means showing up for your goals even when motivation disappears. It means staying loyal to your vision when results take longer than expected. Self-discipline creates a level of confidence that external approval can never provide. When you know you're consistent with your effort, you stop depending on recognition to feel valuable. People often mistake popularity for power, but popularity fades when attention shifts. True power is stability. It's waking up every day knowing your direction doesn't depend on validation. It's having the courage to stand alone if necessary, because you trust your vision more than public opinion. That kind of strength builds a mindset that doesn't collapse under criticism or inflate under praise. It stays balanced, focused, and committed to long-term success. Living by standards also changes your relationships. You stop entertaining connections built on convenience. You start valuing loyalty, honesty, and effort over surface-level attraction or temporary excitement. That shift might reduce the number of people around you, but it increases the quality of the ones who stay. And quality relationships create environments where growth feels natural instead of forced. Approval makes you reactive. Standards make you intentional. When you react to approval, your decisions change depending on who's watching. When you live by standards, your decisions stay consistent, regardless of the audience. That consistency builds trust within yourself. You stop second-guessing your moves because your choices are based on values, not emotions or outside pressure. Every successful journey requires moments where you choose your standards over comfort, moments where you say no to shortcuts, distractions, and opportunities that don't align with your vision. Those decisions might not always bring immediate rewards, but they create long-term stability. And stability is where real confidence grows. When you know your life is built on principles instead of approval, setbacks become lessons instead of failure. Power grows quietly. It builds every time you stay disciplined when distractions call your name. It builds every time you walk away from situations that don't respect your value. It builds every time you choose your long-term vision over short-term acceptance. Over time, those decisions shape your identity into something unshakable. When you stop chasing approval, you stop living in reaction to the world and start building a world that reacts to your standards. That's where real influence begins. Not from how many people support you, but from how firmly you stand in your principles. Because approval comes and goes, but standards create a legacy that stays strong long after opinions change.